as we sit here. And in terms of bringing this presence, there are all sorts of techniques, there are all sorts of methods that you could use. For now, there's no need to commit to this or that per se. But of course, if you already have an established way of doing that, please do that now. If you don't, then some moments of paying attention to breath, some moments of deepening your breath, some moments of taking deliberate breath, breathing in, breathing out, some moments of bringing a tighter attention to specific spots. Sometimes they say at the place where your breath enters your body and where it exits. Sometimes they say pay attention to your abdomen as it rises and falls alongside your breathing pattern. Sometimes just simply permeating your whole body with awareness. Any and all of these is just fine. Use them as a way of bringing skillful presence and attention right here, right now. Sometimes we need to give our mind, our attention, a good reason to be here rather than to be somewhere else. And if that's the case, then in those moments, perhaps you could focus on where within this body is there a sensation that is pleasant and pleasing, at ease, and bring your mind to that specific spot. Let your mind enjoy that sensation. Perhaps it's the sensation of breathing itself, that you're starting to notice that every breath, every inhalation and exhalation brings so much ease and comfort to the body, to your whole being. And let the mind have that as a reason to be interested, to be present here rather than somewhere else. So do not be afraid to notice these pleasing sensations that could arise alongside paying attention to your breath, or pleasant sensations in your body. Or if you're familiar with the practice of metta and find that very inspiring and comforting, the radiating of loving kindness in all directions, you could also do that to give your mind a reason to be here rather than somewhere else. perhaps you are familiar with those instructions that say you breathe in, feel and imagine breathing in all that which is good, all that which is calming, all that which is inspiring from the 10 directions. Then you breathe in that way and give your mind a reason to be here rather than somewhere else. So, again, good morning and hello to everyone. All those who have gathered here at the Dharma Center in Johnson City, as well as those who are able to join us through Zoom. Our Zoom support, John has asked me to mention that the truth of impermanence and the unreliable nature of all experiences may manifest stronger today on Zoom. So you guys on Zoom have the added advantage of suddenly hearing me and suddenly not hearing me. Or suddenly seeing me or suddenly not seeing me. So just be aware, and then if you really know what to do with that, when that happens, that's the opportunity to look at your mind and see what it is complaining about. And what's the nature of such complaints. Yeah? So anyway, this exercise in first cultivating skillful attention. So then I talk briefly about what you can do with the body and what you can do with the mind, and then what you can do with body and mind to cultivate or to develop skillful attention. Then, if you want to take this beyond the context of developing skillful attention, and this is where your practice now enters the path of Buddha Dharma, meaning the Dharma that will make you awake. Buddha Dharma. Buddha Dharma sounds like the Dharma of the Buddha, like he has a copyright on it, like he owns it, or like he made it up, right? Actually, the deeper meaning of Buddha Dharma is the Dharma, the teachings, the understandings, and finally the teachings and the understandings regarding how things are, which is the definition for truth in Buddhist teachings, how things are rather than how things appear to be. So this Dharma, if we cultivate, if we follow, if we work on it, will wake us up, will make us Buddha. So Buddha Dharma. So if we want to go beyond developing skillful attention, then this skillful attention needs to be guided in particular directions. But for many people, developing the skillful attention itself is a goal unto itself. I'm not trivializing those goals. I'm just pointing out that having skillful attention is not yet going all the way to what the Buddha really was most interested in. And this, the need to say this, I think reflects like the way in which Buddhist teachings, Buddhist practice have been made available and relevant to people as these teachings, these traditions come to the West. Where Buddhist teachers are quite aware and alert to the fact that not everyone is interested in the full, extent of what the Buddha has to say. And then others from the receiving side have discovered that, well, certain Buddhist techniques, certain Buddhist practices can contribute to general well-being, can contribute to supporting the best of what I already believe in. You know? But now, I don't know, 30 years ago, we can sort of say, oh, we believe in, as Americans. Now, who knows what that means, right? But mainly, I even though with so much change and everything and people disagreeing, I think there is a certain kind of characteristics to what we sort of believe in, which is a materially based understanding of the world, a strong secular humanist element to this materially based understanding. So none of this is negative. I'm not critiquing, just describing, a secular humanist centered based approach to a materially based understanding of what is real. So we trust a lot, what the body seems to be saying or doing. And we are content, to leave it at that. And what is the good life? The good life is being able to provide for yourself, for your family. The good life is to be able to see, family unfolding nicely, all of that. So then there are Buddhist practices, even Buddhist ideas that can help promote that good in the world. But that itself is not yet Buddha Dharma. And my job as a Buddhist teacher is not only to present the first part, but also to present the second part. What you take from part 1 and part 2 is entirely up to you. So the second part, after developing, or alongside it, let's say, it's not like, oh, I have finished developing skillful attention. Now, what should I be attentive to? Alongside developing this skillful attention, the Buddha has a very clear prescription, a very clearly articulated path to where should this skillful attention go? What should you be attentive to? So I would say, and there are many ways of saying what I'm going to say next and what we're going to share together, explore together for the next few hours. The way I'm going to put it is, there is a set of there are two sets. The first set, and so now I'm not going to put a label, let's just say set 1, set 2. The first set is directing this skillful attention to noticing certain qualities that currently exist in all the experiences that we have. From very inspiring experiences to very disturbing experiences to very mundane, mostly unnoticed experiences. And here experiences refer basically to when sight, sound, smell, taste, touch occurs, and the thoughts and the feelings that accompany these experiences. So experience here in other words, refer to what we may think of as reality. But then if you lean into that and say, oh, reality, well, what are we talking about? Well, actually, all we're able to account for when we think about reality is these thoughts and feelings that arises in relation to when the eye sees something, when the nose smells something, when the tongue tastes something. So sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, giving rise to emotive and cognitive experiences. So with regards to all these experiences, the Buddha says, pay attention to how, at least now, there is a quality that is, so maybe you'll say, oh, this sounds like bad news. We always start with bad news, this is, and you're like, well, it's so negative. Yeah, maybe it's negative. But you should also consider that, well, maybe it's because that which is good don't need our attention. And that which is, quote unquote, bad is standing in between us and what is good. Right? So then, recognizing what is, not good or bad news can more quickly help us be done with it. So the first quality to experiences, and that quality has to do with the way that experiences turn up for us. The first quality is the quality of unsatisfactoriness. More commonly translated as what? Suffering. Right? Suffering. Unsatisfactoriness. That all our experiences carry that flavor, unsatisfactoriness. Then you might say, well, what about this? What about that? Right? I'm pretty sure whatever it is that you can come up with, if you really, kind of pay attention, you're like, yeah, it is. It has that quality to it. It's unsatisfactory. You say, well, what about, infinite love, agape, What about that? Well, the ideal may not be unsatisfactory, but the way it arises for us currently right now is unsatisfactory. Not enough. Can't turn up whenever you want it. Can't stay whenever you tell it to not go away. Right? So even very noble ideas, or in the context of Buddhist teachings, compassion, right? Insofar as how you and I are able or not able to conjure that up, it carries this quality of unsatisfactoriness. So that's the first quality. Skillful attention should be directed at paying notice to the unsatisfactory nature of all experiences. In recommending to us, in teaching us to do this, the Buddha is not telling us that therefore when you see this unsatisfactoriness, right, throw a tantrum. Why so not fair? Whatever form of that we do, depends on who else is around, I guess. But again, now these days it's fashionable for everyone to throw tantrums in front of the whole world. Because if it is not seen, it's not real. Kind of like the forest, the tree that falls in the forest, you know? Now the answer is like, if a tree falls in the forest and it doesn't turn up on social media, did it happen or not? But anyhow, right? Unsatisfactory. Second quality, and there is without being too dogmatic about this, there is a certain, at least for now, there is a certain logic to the sequence of these. There are three characteristics. And the first one is unsatisfactory. The second quality is uncertain. Uncertain. And that, normally is translated as what?
Suffering.
Well, the first one is suffering. The second one? Uncertain.
Indifference.
Impermanence.
Yeah.
In Buddhist talk. in literature, Buddhist literature. Impermanence, right? Impermanence, of course, now we're talking about translation. Now we're talking about English. So in Sanskrit it's anitya, Pali is anicca. Impermanence, as in the English translation for anicca, anitya, it's a little abstract, kind of intellectual, impermanence. The felt sense of impermanence is really what we are to work with, not just as a concept. And so I think a better translation is uncertainty. It's just not certain. And in the face of uncertainty, if you don't recognize the uncertain nature, the uncertain quality of these experiences, and then you have hopes and fears, right? Then very quickly you see the unreliable nature of this uncertainty. So second, to pay attention, to direct skillful attention to, is the uncertain nature of experiences. That it can change. What appears to be unlikable may turn likable. What appears to be likable may turn unlikable. What appears to be, what initially might appear to be, I don't have particular reactions to it, might very quickly lead to very strong response to. So uncertainty is the second quality that skillful attention should go to again and again and again and again, both in terms of breadth and depth. So we develop skillful attention through those exercises that we did, and I just gave very kind of throughout here various techniques that various Buddhist teachers and traditions will teach, but really all of that is to develop skillful attention. Then skillful attention needs to go somewhere. First is the unsatisfactory nature of experiences. Second, the uncertain nature of experience. Third, the not you nature of experiences. What does that mean? The not you nature, the not me nature of experiences, which is, this is pointing out to how we habitually take on more than we need to when experiences turn up, which is all the time, of course. And so all the time, when we experience something, or when an experience takes place, we latch on, even if it is for one moment, but we latch on and kind of add it on to the paper mache you, your masterwork of this lifetime. You slap it onto it and say, ah ha ha. But the Buddha is saying that habit, you should pay attention to that habit of thinking everything as I, of owning too much, owning things, owning experiences that need no owner. Now be careful, right? Here it's not the problems of, we can talk about that later perhaps if it comes up again, but just to have a footnote there, be careful of what people call spiritual bypassing. So don't take these practices as a way to kind of, that's not me. Again, the Buddha applied this to everything, not just the things that, we don't like, not just the emotions that we clearly recognize to be harmful, even those feelings, those emotions, those aspirations that are said to be helpful. The Buddha also says, actually, can you see that it is not you? That you don't need to own it. Much less, copyright it. Not much less patent it, So, not me, not mine. These experiences that turn up. So these three qualities, they are articulated as three qualities, but we should not be too rigid about oh, this is this, this is this, this is this. It's just the starting point for you to kind of direct skillful attention towards experiences, and as a starting point, having these three words, having these three concepts is useful. But don't be too rigid about, oh, where's the dividing line? This and that. Doesn't this come first? Doesn't that come first? I gave this sequence because from my own experience, I feel that if you start with paying attention with the unsatisfactoriness, then you look at the uncertain, because in the face of seeing unsatisfactoriness, we might get depressed slightly or greatly, because we because of our habits, we say, oh, right? So then the next quality helps, but it's uncertain. In other words, it's not going to remain like this. Don't lose your wits over it. It's uncertain. Don't. As heavy as this experience of unsatisfactoriness, which might turn into suffering, the suffering of starvation, the suffering of being hunted, being chased down, being bombed, right? From the unsatisfactoriness of, oh, I'm tired of sitting in this way, I'm going to now go sit on a chair. To suffering on that scale, all of it don't last, changes. So uncertain. Then, not only are they uncertain, you don't need to own them. First of all, you don't need to own them. Second of all, you can't really own them. So then you can't really, you don't need to own them is because you can't really own them. Why can't you own them? Because they are uncertain. And because they are uncertain and we have certain habits in place, we think it's bad. That they are unsatisfactory. But unsatisfactoriness actually is a quality that arises because we have a mind. Right? Uncertain, whether you have a mind or not, it's uncertain. Right? Not you, whether you have a mind or not, that's just how it is. But the unsatisfactoriness part, the first one, has to do with the fact that you have a mind. Whatever you want to call it, a mind, a heart, a soul, yeah, use whatever term you want. We all sort of know what we're talking about. You have awareness. You have a mind that has capable of having experiences. And then because of that, this quality of unsatisfactoriness arises. So this takes us to the second set. Remember, there's a second set to the skillful attention. And the second set to the skillful attention is to look at qualities of this mind. Briefly, this mind and these two qualities need a lot more unpacking, which we'll do later. But it said that this mind is empty hyphen clarity. Or, in terms of two qualities, the mind is empty of essence, but yet has the power of knowing. Just for now, empty of essence, what does that mean? Just for now. If you're very curious, what does that mean? For now, just understand that as saying, again, it's not yours. You can't own it. And why? Because it doesn't need an owner. And it works a lot better if you don't own it. Yeah, in simple terms, what empty means. There are thousands of pages of what emptiness means, according to the different philosophical traditions within Buddhism. If you have a knack for those things, it's good to study them because it helps. But what it is helping is to help you to get this point. This mind is empty of essence. 1 point. Second quality. Why we call it mind? Because it has it's that which has the power to know. To know. To be aware. And this knowing, this quality of knowing, this quality of, and poetically, clarity. or clear light or luminosity. These just poetic expressions. Luminosity, clarity, clear light. This is talking about how experiences arise vividly. So suffering arises vividly because of this quality of clear light of the mind, luminosity of mind. Happiness also arises powerfully, clearly, because of this quality, because of the mind having this quality. So this is, in a nutshell, the second set that skillful attention should go towards, should be led towards examining again and again and again and again. So there are these two sets. If we want to think linearly about this, which is not a problem, it's only a problem when you think that's the only way to think about it. So if we want to think linearly about this, then you first turn to the first set. Then over time, you look at the second set. In the end, these are not two sets also. But as to how these two sets actually kind of are not two sets and come together, right? It's better that you discover that through your own experience of it. Rather than, again, a lot of words, a lot of concepts, right? I'm sure all of you are familiar with non-dual. Sometimes capitalized even. These are the graven images of Buddhism. False gods. No need to go in that direction. So skillful attention is to be developed, cultivated, by first paying attention to body and mind as we know them right now. Right? You can't argue, or there's no need to argue against the fact that there's a bunch of physical processes going on. Who can argue against that? There's a bunch of mental, emotional processes going on, and when you say I, essentially you're talking about that. So then you start there. Find ways to optimize body at ease, at rest, content. Find ways to keep mind present with the body. Give the mind, like a child, give the child a reason to stay. Rather than yelling at the child, don't run around, don't run around, don't run around. Give it a reason. And the reason can be found in very simple ways. So do that, right? Do whatever you need to bring these two to the same space. And to encourage, body to know mind and mind to know body. These are like, long lost twins or, soulmates separated at birth, whatever poetic words you want to use, bring them, these two together, let them reacquaint with each other in a space that is wide, safe, protected. And if you are able to do that, for many people, that's enough. They're like, I don't need other things. And if that's what you want from out of this, good. Enough. Of course, the Buddha says, yeah, but then the root problems are not solved, Then this good thing will only be good if you're able to keep it all together all the time. Then what happens when body inevitably falls apart? Right? When mind inevitably falls apart. With modern medical technology, it has, I think, mostly has done a good job in keeping the body intact together. Not so good yet at keeping mind intact and together, and much less keeping the two together. Maybe one day we'll get there, but not right now. Right now we are farming it out to AI. So, skillful attention, then skillful attention alongside these two sets of turning skillful attention towards. And then, from there, liberation becomes possible. Buddhahood, in Buddhist specific language, Buddhahood becomes possible. So, questions, comments, observations?
Yes? Well, I don't know if it'll make sense out of context, but the place I got stuck was the suffering, like you mentioned a camp. You've gone from you're sitting and you're comfortable in your Dharma center, and then life changes and life changes and life changes, and you get to the camp and things are miserable, but you don't own that. And I guess, what does that look like when you're miserable? Everything about you, your physical, is uncomfortable, and you don't know where you are. And I think you would have a tendency to own that, and I guess to bring your mind to that point where, like where they say sometimes members in concentration camps could still be happy. And I guess that's where you want to go, but I guess it's something to think about also, what do you do with those situations that really push you? How do you not own that?
Don't go there. Don't go there.
If you have that choice, yeah.
Most of us have that choice in this room.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of refugees and those situations.
Right. But nothing we can do in this moment about that situation. First, ourselves, be disciplined about don't go there. Right? Then, of course, do what is possible, right? To undo things that would lead people there or would drag people there, right? So, skillful political engagement, all of that, right? Me as a Buddhist teacher, I have no ability to tell you how to do those things. Here, come back to, so sometimes I say to people, don't apply Buddhist teachings beyond your capacity, which is a tendency we do. We say, whoa, what about Gaza? You say that suffering is not real there? How can you say that? okay, do we want to argue or do we want to change ourselves right now, Do that, but without taking this to try to answer those questions there. I think those bigger scenario questions are really complicated and really hard, and don't try to get easy answers from Buddhism.
But could it help to kind of, when you're talking about investigation and stuff like that, could it help to try to start, trying on some of these ideas and see what that does in that moment for your suffering, your situation, something like that? Maybe not. Maybe you won't get it completely, but like with loving kindness, where you start, in meditation to have, well, I love that person that I really don't like. That you try it out and eventually your mind works with that possibility.
Sure, I'm not going to argue with you on that.
Okay.
I can always try.
Yeah. But that's where I like, too, the flexibility in this whole, that there's no rigidness to it. Because
you can always try,
each situation where you go with that stuff.
I have simultaneously, I think I have a more modest belief in how much these teachings can solve world problems and how much these teachings can transform you. In the Buddha's own life, whether you like it or not, it's there. They didn't hide it. They tell you what happened. In the Buddha's own life, he wasn't able to protect his people from being invaded by a neighboring kingdom. Even though the leader of the neighboring kingdom respects him as a spiritual teacher and led forces 3 times to invade the Buddha's native kingdom. And the Buddha intervened 3 times. And after that, the Buddha says, there's nothing I can do. So, it's sobering. So I say, don't, there's no easy answers, right, to these really big problems. But doesn't mean we don't try, We do. We keep trying. But sometimes, right, in the abstract of, I want to solve those problems, we're not taking care of things that we can take care of and we should take care of. So when I was a college professor at Warren Wilson College over in Swananoa on the other side of Asheville, I don't know if you all know Warren Wilson College. At least at one point it has a reputation of being very activist-minded and students with a lot of heart and all of that, and maybe some other things also. I remember when my first semester there, I had students that came to me one day and said, I may not be in class on Monday. I said, okay. And then they say, just want to let you know, may not be able to come to class on Monday. I said, why? Because there was a certain uncertainty the way they said it. I said, why? They're like, this weekend going to the School of the Americas to protest. Might get arrested and not come to class. The School of the Americas, you know about that? This is where our country trained people to undermine governments that we don't like in Latin America. There's a karma to that. Anyway, so Warren Wilson College. I was threatening to make bumper stickers, not for bumpers, but for communal kitchens. in the dorms. Yes. Bumper stickers, not for car bumpers, but for communal kitchens in the residence halls. And those stickers will say, if you can't do your dishes, you can't save the world. Gosh. Everybody just putting, whatever plate, bowl, cup that they've used there and let it pile up and pile up and pile up, and then the RA and the RD are like, oh, I gotta do your dishes, we're gonna throw them away, la la la, and everything, and they're too busy saving the world. I'm still trying to get consistent with brushing my teeth. That's the truth. Here's my confession. Saving the world? I don't know. If you're truly saving the world, I salute you. But don't let the notion of saving the world distract you from the teeth that needs to be brushed, the dishes that needs to be cleaned, so that other people living with you don't have to deal with your mess.
Well, the Israelis killed another 100 Gazans just yesterday, and they have another attack planned for next week. And the World Food Kitchen went out of business again in the last 24 hours. And I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I don't exactly disagree with you, but I wish we could do something.
Yeah.
And it's really tough. I mean, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
totally. I don't know the answer either.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to those big questions. But
it's just tough.
Right now, right?
Yeah.
Self-maintenance.
It's just tough.
Self-care.
Yeah.
And whether we know self-care or not directly impacts people around us.
Yeah.
And when it negatively impacts people around us, now they will negatively impact people around them, and so on and so forth. I said immediate action that you can take right now, for the most part, is limited to about a 50-mile radius. If you really want to go do it, right, a 50-mile radius.
That's about it. I understand.
Yeah. Then, of course, there are things that can be done, like go vote. Oh my goodness. It's pointless to vote. Okay. Then start a revolution. I'm not for violence, but then if you don't want to vote, start a revolution. Like, French Revolution came with guillotines. I'm against violence. Anyway, that's not the topic today.
No.
Great Tree Zen Women's Temple is sponsoring a new series called Mindful Politics, starting next weekend, so look into it. You can participate on Zoom too. They are brave souls. I neither have the guts nor the skill to teach that topic. So, yes, other questions, comments? Yes.
A few Zoom questions.
Oh, good, Zoom questions.
Let's see. I think Judy may have had your hand up first if you want to go ahead and speak. Oh wait, I have to unmute you one moment. Where did you go? You disappeared.
Next.
There you are. Alright. Serena Jane. There we we go.
Hi, Dr. Lai.
Hello.
So you talked about skillful attention, and then you talked about understanding of impermanence, and then, like if this was a linear path, I guess, right? You talked about diminishing of the self, no self, diminishing of ego, to eventually attaining Buddhahood. So we have words to describe the path. What are the words to describe Buddhahood? I'm just
The absence of confusion, the absence of endlessly chasing unreliable conditions to hope that they become reliable, endless running around to add to this is me, this is mine. In the early sources, the Buddha, for the most part, did not care to talk about Buddhahood as this or that. Not because there's no such thing, but because, again, it quickly becomes a graven image. It becomes a false god, an idol. So we begin with, and he began with, what you are currently experiencing. The unsatisfactoriness. Do you want to continue carrying that around? No? Unburden. Put it down. And so, the basic profile of the historical Buddha, I would, if we want to use modern terms to describe him, you could say that he was an empiricist. Yeah. Not interested in abstract thinking. He was an empiricist. Even in the way he guided people, he didn't have a system. Buddhists have to figure out a system later. And they got very good, with systems. Why? Because, Hindus come poking holes. You say this, but then you also say that. How does it all hold together? Oh, let's meet. Let's talk about how we hold it all together. Because those more sophisticated people are asking questions. But the Buddha says, I'm only interested in healing suffering. To be fair, if they didn't build up systems, we may not have any of those teachings remaining to this day. So I'm grateful for the system builders. But we don't need... but then, we should not confuse, the medicine from, the pharmacy. Of course, if you don't have pharmacies, right, or pharmaceutical companies, another difficult topic, right? If the research doesn't go on, the medicine doesn't come, yeah, okay. But then all of that needs to be done in service of medicine, healing people. So anyway, yeah, let me, use this as an opportunity to clarify further based on your question. It is not also really about diminishing ego. The teachings on not you, not self, right? It's not about diminishing ego. I know, you're like, wait, what? Why do I say that?
It's balance.
Balance, yes. Uh-huh.
We need our ego to do the work, don't we?
Yeah, you need the ego to do work. And so all these are, good responses, but I'm trying to tease out certain things about language.
Because
So what was the Buddha's primary language? What kind of language? Not like, Sanskrit, Pali. But what model, what framework did the Buddha give?
the absence of a solid self.
No, what
We're causing our own suffering.
what kind of language, like
Like a metaphor.
metaphor, what kind of metaphors?
Agricultural.
Agricultural, yeah, in some cases. In this case, healing. Healing suffering. So not philosophical. There are philosophical consequence implications. Not even psychological. There are psychological implications, consequence. So Buddhist psychology developed over time. Buddhist philosophy developed over time. Buddhist religion developed over time. Buddhist political, not so much. It's just the way this tradition developed. Because out of the Indian context, first and foremost, the Buddha was part of a larger movement called the Shramanas. These are the strivers. And the strivers, whether you like it or not, I can't change history, I can't improve this for you. They were people who said to society, I reject you. Everything that you represent, everything that you're building, I reject. The act of celibacy is the most radical act in rejecting mainstream society. The very physical basis of you reproducing this system, I reject. So they are like the ultimate radicals, which the Buddha was part of this larger movement. Of course, they all have very different ideas of how to solve what the existential problem is. And again, each of them articulated differently what the existential problem was. Yeah. So anyway, it came out of that tradition. So, like whether you like it or not, there are certain strengths and there are certain weaknesses. The weaknesses, I think, for the most part, as a result of that, there was not much political theory and practice that came out of the Buddhist context. A lot of psychology, a lot of philosophy, for sure. In the same way that you can look at, say, Christianity and Islam and you say, hey, where is your psychology and your philosophy? Kind of weak compared to Buddhists. True, but very strong when it comes to politics, actually. Because these were traditions that said, God made this world for a good purpose. So now you need to maintain this world. Right? And so they need to invest a lot of energy in figuring out the best politics, the best economics, the best set of laws, right? The Buddhist tradition says, no, we're stepping away from this. Now, of course, as Buddhism unfolded, they need to come back and talk to society, right? And so, to that degree, things develop. Anyway, language, right? So in this language of it's not you, right? It's not yet going to like ego is bad, so you should reduce your ego. Here it is simply saying, it's not part of you. And then, of course, even in the Buddha's time, people say, okay, so what is you? Right? Buddha says, it's not like he's trying to avoid or evade this question. But it really shows like his approach was very different, because almost all the other groups were very interested in answering this question. So who is the real you? So these are traditions in India that talk about the divine self, Atman. Buddha took a very different stand on that whole issue. He said, question the very premise of wanting to know who am I. Question that very premise. He says that very premise, that very question that first before trying to answer that question. And the way he does it is he says, so that question comes from this idea. It's sort of, I think it's comparable to like, this, right? I'm sure you've heard of this, this kind of question that you cannot answer. Which is like, have you stopped beating your wife? Either yes or no, you're in trouble. Yeah, so it's like, wait, what do you mean? So then, self and ego, right, is more the language of that, who are you? Here the Buddha says this, can you see that that's not you? And that's not you. And that's not you. Why isn't that you? Because if it is you, right, there are some necessary qualities related to something being you. At the very least is, you have control over it. Do you? So right now, what do you have control over? Absolutely, at all times, without question.
Oh, the cheetah.
Really?
You should.
No, I'm asking what? Not what you should. What? Right now, what do you have absolute control over? Nothing. So it's not you. Then of course you say, but surely there is you. Yes, I think we could quietly say, there is something you. But the Buddha says, don't spend too much time on that, because within the range of our experience right now, there is nothing that we can point to say, that's me. If you needs the quality of, if it is you, you need to have control over.